our Tom Verducci. Tom, just your thoughts over here on your overarching thoughts on the rule changes and the vote, which it sounds like these rules are going to be implemented in 2023.
Yeah, the vote's expected to pass, and I do think you're looking at the future of baseball really traced to today's vote. I say that because the game should look very differently next year after really 2 decades where it's gone in the wrong direction. Whether you're a gamer like Robert or a baseball fan, the thing you don't need these days is less action over more time. But that's exactly what has happened to a baseball game over the last 2 decades. And if you go back to 2007, the height of attendance, to 2019, the last pre-COVID season, attendance went down by almost 11 million fans. Those things are connected. The game needed to be not just shorter in terms of time, but better paced in terms of action. And these 3 rule changes are designed to do exactly that. Give fans more action over less time. So I think 2 decades really of attrition are about to turn around starting next year. You're looking at the average time of game, which is important. All-time record was last year in terms of being slow. More important, though, guys, is pace of action. How long does it take for a ball to be put in play? And the last couple of years, it's been almost 4 minutes on average to see a baseball put in play. Go back to the mid-'80s, it was 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Wow. So the games have gotten longer because of a lack of action, not because there's more action. This, I think, begins to reverse that trend.
Tom, what's common perception in clubhouses around the industry?
Well, there's going to be a transition. I mean, think about the slide rule at second base, the anti-collision rule at home plate. A lot of complaining, a lot of adjustments, awkwardness, if you will. But that was really only for a month or 2. Be prepared for the same thing. You'll get into a situation next year with these rules in place where hitters are saying, I don't have enough time to get ready. Pitchers are saying, I feel like I'm being rushed. After a month or 2, you're going to see things settle down. It becomes routine. Remember, guys, these rules have been tried in the minor leagues, and they have established exactly what they were set out to do. And now you have almost 80% of major leaguers who have played under these rules already because they came up through the minor leagues. Right. So it's not like they haven't done it before. They have. Now it's the big league level. I get it. It's different. Stakes are higher. But I'm telling you, an awkward transition period of a month or 2, and after that, I think people are going to like it, including the players.
D-Row, what do you think?
I have so many opinions on it because baseball's always been a little slow to the change, right? Now it's like two monster things taking place at one time. I think it's going to take a second for the veterans. Like you said, 80% of the league has kind of dealt with this. I'm in on the pitch clock. In the locker room, I wouldn't necessarily have said that. Yeah. Being removed from the game 8 years, there does need to be a rhythm and timing to the baseball game. I'm resistant on telling me where to play my defense. To have 4 guys all be on the dirt, I go back to facing Barry Bonds or a Vlad Guerrero Sr. You can't defend those guys on the dirt. Yeah. So you're going to tell me that I can't put a short right fielder and I can't move someone over? I mean, if we've learned anything from analytics in bulk, is that we can defend you. Right. And if we don't have the same payroll and the same talent, then I got to find ways at the margins to try and not let you on base and score runs. So I'm a little hung up on the shift part of it. The pitch clock, I'm so intrigued by because we have locked in on some minor league games. Yeah. And it does make a difference. It does make a difference. Yeah. The larger bases for me.
Yeah, what do you think of the larger bases,
I'd save you at first.
Where are you on that change?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a big deal, right? 3 inches bigger on each side, but it reduces the distance between first and second and third by 4.5 inches. Yeah. And again, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it does encourage stolen bases because you literally have less ground to cover, even if it is 4.5. So for instance, in the minor leagues, when they went to the bigger bases, stolen base attempts went up 27%. Wow. If we get that in the major leagues, we're back to where we were 20 years ago in terms of teams taking risks on the bases. And really the other ancillary part to this is safety. injuries, base-related injuries went down in the minor leagues because you do have bigger bases. Think about the runner and first baseman, the collisions at first base. There definitely is a safety factor. But the driving point here is encourage stolen bases because this has become a very risk-averse game, right? Some of the information that D-Rose is talking about in defense and pitching, it's all on the run prevention side. Baseball, like other sports do every single season, needs to rebalance the defense-offense equation.
D-Rose, you're talking about the shift. Tom, teams can challenge whether a team complied with the shift.
Yeah.
How technical are we talking? Are we talking
His toes
a
on
toe?
a blade of grass.
I don't know if they'll get to that extent, Lauren, but it's interesting. I think maybe you might see guys with their feet on the dirt on the left side of the infield, for instance, if you're the shortstop. And then as a pitch is thrown, maybe they start moving over behind the second base bag, right?
Yeah.
So I actually like that. You see bodies in motion. But to D-Rose point, the shifts began as really an intellectual edge, right? A lot of early adopters had an edge over other teams. Now everybody does it. Shifts happen because why? They take away hits. And not just ground balls. I'm talking hard hit balls. If you look at batting average on balls in play, on hard hit ground balls, it's gone down from 340 to 308 just in the last 5 years. So they work, they really take away hits. And D-Rose, you know this as a hitter, if you're in the box and you see that right or left side loaded up against you, your thinking then becomes, well, I need to hit over this shift. And when you think about hitting over the shift, you create more loft in your swing. And when you have more loft in your swing, that's how we get more strikeouts. I'm all about showing off infielders and outfielders range, and that will happen in a shift. You can't sign the unathletic guy to play second base anymore. You need players with range, players who can cover ground. I think it puts a premium, especially in the middle infield, on athletic players. And again, with the stolen base incentive, again, more emphasis on athleticism. If you want a style of baseball with more balls in play, with more athleticism, that happens faster, you want the game to return to the 90s and the 80s. We're not talking about reinventing baseball. We're talking about restoring baseball.
Yeah. No, that's a very excellent point, Tom.
It's a lot, though.
It is. It is. It's going to be very interesting to see how the game looks next season, beginning in 2023.
And besides the bases, just real quick, kind of jumping off that, if we're going to make the bases bigger, can we make them a different type? I shouldn't have guys having to use oven mitts and not break their hand going in, and then the tag being stayed on and the replay, oops, he came off for a split second.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be disengaging any base.
Yeah.
Tempur-Pedic pillows.
It's a great point.
I
and
like
think
that.
about guys who've slipped on bases and busted up their thumbs. We're talking about the Trouts and the Harpers of the world. You know, they've tried with different materials, D-Row. They haven't quite locked that down yet. I think that's going to come, but I do think the actual material of the bases definitely needs to be addressed as well. Good point.
Are you in on all this, Tom?
I am. Listen, we've sat here now for 2 decades seeing the game go in the wrong direction and say, why doesn't baseball do anything about this? And listen, they've had a lot of player feedback on this. Part of the labor negotiations was to have this competition committee and have 4 players on this committee and listen to their feedback. Some things have been tweaked because of player feedback. You know, the pitch clocks are going to be a second longer each with runners on and empty than they are in the minor leagues. You can step off twice during an at-bat if you're a pitcher, and then again twice if the runner moves up a base. These are things that players said we need to address. They're adding a mound visit in the 9th inning. Say it's a really tight game, the closer's, you know, really in a jam and he needs a physical break. You're now allowed an extra mound visit in the 9th inning to account for that. All these came from player feedback. So, you know, I'll go back to what Matt Carpenter said. Veteran guy, if you remember, he began this year in the minor league. So he's playing with these bigger bases and the pitch clock. He's like, I hated it at first, but you know what? Once you start playing under these rules, he said, I love it. I would love to see this in the major leagues. It's good for the game.
Tom, we appreciate the insight. Have a great weekend, man. Thank you very much.